Habt ihr schon gehört? Manche Menschen mögen nicht, was wir hier sprechen.
Ja, sie sagen, das klingt künstlich.
Ich verstehe das nicht. Ich meine, wir sprechen doch ganz natürlich.
Ja, so wie Pferde halt sprechen.
Genau. Außerdem können wir uns mit Körpersprache noch besser ausdrücken, aber leider verstehen das die Menschen nicht so gut.
Ja, die Menschen sollten mal SharonWilsie fragen. Die ist heute im Podcast und kennt sich mit den Pferdesprachen super aus.
Gute Idee. Vielleicht kann sie den Leuten erklären, dass wir hier ganz authentisch reden.
Hallo liebe Hypomaniacs, ihr seid auf Trab, dem Podcast für alle Pferdeverrückten mit Julia Kistner und den 3 Welchis. Welcome Sharon and Laura Wilsie. Thank you very much that we have you on this podcast auf Trab. It's really a honor for us. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Even though you have a really huge community, German-speaking community in Switzerland, Austria, and of course in Germany, Laura and Sharon, could you briefly introduce yourself, and especially also Sharon, can you briefly share your touching childhood story so that we know how everything began with the horses and also with its behavioral research?
Hi, I'm Laura Wilsie. I met Sharon about 15 years ago, and I did have some exposure in my childhood to horses, but mostly from the other side of the fence. Or if I did have a riding experience, it was mostly the pony took me for a ride into the apple trees and I ended up on the ground. So I mostly spent more time on the ground falling off horses when I was a kid than actually having a good time riding.
It sounds familiar.
But I did actually, my grandparents got a couple of thoroughbred racehorses. So I was a youngster, about 12 years old, hanging out at the thoroughbred track. And so I do remember just a misty morning, and Cajun Moonshine was the horse's name, he was actually winning some races, and I was watching him exercise, and I'm like, I want to do something with horses. There was this magical moment, and I was like, I want to ride on be whisked away on the horse's back, and things kind of changed where my grandparents ended up moving out of the region where I was living, and horses kind of left my life. And then I became more of a professional youngster athlete and things. I went to the Junior Olympics, and I traveled the nation playing basketball. So that was kind of where my, the kid horse time paused, and then athletics took over. And then life happened, and
you came back to horses.
I did. I came back to horses. The dream back when I was a kid, I never thought about it as time went on. And then someone brought me to this rescue in New Hampshire called Live and Let Live, where I rescued basically, like I said, very much observation experience with horses and ending up on the ground, a PMU foal filly. Mm-hmm. She was about 6 months old. And I loved being around the horses, and I loved being around my baby horse until I couldn't walk her anymore on the lead rope. Mm-hmm. And I luckily met Sharon. And so I was very, very lucky, because actually the first day I met her in a demonstration, she put me on the lead rope, never knowing how things would unfold. And here we are 15 years later. So it's been an absolute honor to be on this mission with Horsespeak with Sharon. My life has changed personally. There's so many other rabbit holes I could speak about, but we're not going to not do that today. And then also professionally, where I got my childhood dream of playing with ponies and helping people have better relationships with their horses. And it's such a heartfelt journey that we've been on, and to be able to hear people's story about the challenges that they're having with their horse. And then we can give them a list of things to go and try. And most of the time we have a beautiful success rate. We haven't really had someone say, well, that didn't work, because we give people so many options to be able to figure out their horse for themselves, because it doesn't make a difference to us that Sharon and I can work with, what we call red zone horses, high energy horses, or the horses that can't be touched. It doesn't serve the community. So that's what I love about the work we're doing, is we can teach anybody, whether you've been around horses for 5 minutes or 50 years, we can help enhance anything that you're doing with horses. So it's just an honor to be with Sharon because she is such a gifted teacher, a consummate researcher, and just never ever leaves a stone unturned when she is planning a clinic or planning a webinar or a book. She is always trying to make herself learn more so that she can deliver the best product possible.
So Sharon, what did you do with Laura and her pony that changed her life? And what is the background of yours that you can do things like this?
I'll answer that question at last. But I'll start with, so for myself, you had asked about my experience. And very briefly, I had spent more time in hospital than out of hospital up to the age of 10. And so one of my specialties is observation because that's all I had to do. And the only play I could have was in my own mind. So my mother also is a veterinary technician. And when I wasn't in hospital, I was with her at the veterinary clinic. And so my hands-on experience with animals was dealing with animals that were sick, or injured. So that you have to have a very special, approach to them. So when I started to come back to horses as an adult and really look at, what is it that I want to do? I had done a lot of riding. I had done sort of the typical childhood horse education path of I did hunter jumpers, I did some eventing, then I got into dressage, but then I switched to Western and I did some reining and I did some Western pleasure and then I led trail rides and I did riding lessons and then so I had a lot of different categories that I had fulfilled. And then I took a break and then I came back and I thought, the thing that always is missing for me in work with horses is the same kind of ease with this animal that you can have like with dog training, because I was a dog trainer also. So the kind of joy that we have with our dogs and the ease that we have with even if it's a difficult dog, there's this sense of heart and it's like, that's my dog. But with horses, there's this culture that so many different riding schools or camps types of riding fall into that says, yes, it's your horse, but don't let him get away with it. Or he's being lazy or he's, things we would never do with our dogs. And I'll say to people, so tell me how your dog sleeps on your bed. Oh, no, he doesn't sleep on my bed. Really? Oh, yes, of course he sleeps on my bed. So, there's an ease with other animals in our life that we don't necessarily have with horses. And that's because they're really large. We don't live with them in the house and we need to feel safe. So a dysregulated horse, a horse who is stressed, can be really unsafe to themselves and to others. So part of where I met Laura is I was diving into some research and I was working at a rescue. And the rescue had about 100 horses at a time and they would come in and they would get rehomed and then new ones would come in. And so I would take the most difficult cases because that was the best research. And what I was trying to study was what did horses do to help horses? Because I knew what people did to help horses, but I didn't know what horses did to help horses. And there were quite a number of older horses at the rescue that would calm and soothe the really stressed out new horses that came in. And everybody knows that. Everybody knows there's certain horses that calm everybody down, but nobody knew why. So I studied why, and it wasn't very exciting. At first, it didn't look like anything. You didn't really see much happening because it was all micro gestures. But it was a pattern that would repeat and repeat and repeat. And so eventually I started to catch on. But there's a blinking and then an ear and then a step and then a shake and then head down. And then the other horse copied. Ooh, I've seen that 5 times in a row now. And I've seen that with every horse that this horse encounters. Ooh, what if I copy that? What if I imitate that? And then it would have success. And I thought, oh, interesting. So my personal horses, I had taken on a couple rescue horses, and one of them is actually a German Tarpan. So a Tarpan from in America, we have some breeding programs here. And somehow he'd gotten into the population and he ended up at my house because nobody could manage him. And so he required so much more authenticity than any other horse I'd ever, even Mustangs. He required more than Mustangs required. So because of that, I realized, I have a huge opportunity here to go to the master, go to the most primitive horse that I've ever encountered and start to imitate him in his body language. And when I did that, I had a huge turnaround in the dynamic with him, where before he was at best private and standoffish, skeptical, like not interested. And at the worst, he would bite, he would kick, he would chase you out of the pen. So suddenly he's inviting me in and he's showing me, I'm doing a breath, what I think is a breath message, and I'm bobbing my head, and he looks at me and he says,
"What's this?"
Tail swish. That's not it. And then something else. And so I'm learning like a young foal to follow him around and imitate him. And the more I did it, the more successful I was. But of course it looked crazy because I'm like, I'm doing all this and I'm figuring out, how to do these micro gestures with my little neck. The horses have a long neck and head, and they have a long face, a lot of facial expressions, almost as many as our own. But their head is long, so it's harder to see it. So I started to bring in, my arm can be long and my hand, the ear, and my hand can take a higher head with a perky or a lower head with relaxation. So does that work? And he said, yes, that works, because now you can be long and high and perky or low or like this for connection.
Just to interrupt, because the podcast audience can't see this, but this is really interesting. You use your arm as your neck and as your ear and everything, so that you are longer and more volume, that you have more volume, or?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Mirroring their head and neck,
yes.
Their ears.
Yeah.
And we can use like two fingers, like the pointy and the middle finger, and be like ears, like make them perky. If we are wanting them to change the expression of their ears, we can suggest, hey, let's talk about your ears right now. And it's so fascinating to watch them mimic and mirror our gestures, postures, and goes through our hand and arm.
Yeah. So the bottom line of Horsespeak is Horsespeak defines the language of the horse. So it's their language instead of trying to get them to understand ours. We are really using the qualities of observation and mirroring in the beginning to imitate them with our body shape and see what works best for them. So first it's learning what are the gestures, postures, and signals that the horses are doing with each other to facilitate calming, to facilitate connection, bonding, or to work out disagreements or to create safety. And it turns out that one of the big components of horse communication is constantly to be aware, are we safe? Are we protected? And it makes sense because they're a prey animal.
So what is the language, or what is the body language for safety, for example?
There are different facets to the body language. So we start with from outside the horse in the environment itself. And horses in a herd have different functions. So there's not just one leader. There are different qualities. And in the herd, we call it roles in the herd. And so one of the roles in the herd would be the sentry, and they would have a higher head. They would project their head very high and look and see, smell, listen, is this dangerous? And if it's not dangerous, then they relax, they lick and chew like this, and they also swish their tail. They breathe out many messages all together that say, it's all good, it's okay, there's no problem. And there may be another horse that does this high head and look, but they're very tense and they move a lot and they run around a lot. And this would not be a sentry. This would be maybe a youngster who's nervous or a joker who's like, look, follow me. There's things to run from. And it would be a game. This would be fun. And so the herd does not follow them. The herd ignores them because they're either too young, they don't know, it's a joker. And so the sentry is very serious. Another role that's a protector, and they walk the edge of the paddock. So they will go the closest to the fence, the closest to the woods, the closest to where danger could be, and they will investigate again in a quiet, calm manner.
So which role plays the herd dynamic then? Do you have to talk to each herd member different then? Do you look for one whom you talk, just that you like in a company where you have to talk to the director but not to the cleaning personnel?
It's very similar. Very similar. However, because all horses want to feel safe and protected, what works out really well is to memorize the signals of protectors and sentries. And there's another one called a mentor, and they offer like emotional security. So they usually stand very quietly and offer for the herd to stand quietly with them. So there's different postures and gestures and signals that these types offer. And so when you know what they are, you approach a herd, you say, hey, I could be your sentry, I could be your protector, I could be your mentor. I have these gestures to offer you. And then the horses collectively say, oh, fantastic. Even if there's a mentor or a protector or a sentry in the herd, or your horse is a mentor or protector, but you're offering it to them, so then they have the day off, see, so they can relax and be with you.
And they choose which part you take in the herd, or do you have to take all the parts then?
No, you want to offer the roles that offer security. Mm-hmm. And they know that you're a human. They're not being fooled that you're a new horse. But what we're doing is we go and fetch the horse. We put a halter on, lead rope, and say, come with me. And so what the horse says, when we can offer them some safety, some security, some sentry, they say, oh, yes, of course, I want to follow you because you're offering such a good deal to me. And when I'm with you and I leave my friends, they offer me safety and protection. But if I'm with you, I also have safety and protection. So yes, sure. Or sometimes you're taking the protector away from the herd, and the herd says, no, don't take him. And the protector might say, no, I can't leave them. It'll be a disaster. It'll be terrible. And so then you have some messages you can leave with the herd, like, it's okay here. I've checked the fence is safe. You're going to be good. And then you'll see a change. Your horse says, okay, it's safe to leave them now. They're all right. And you'll see the herd will start to eat again and say, okay, it's all right. And it's very quick because horses in nature have to reach their level of safety and protection very quickly to calm the nervous system down for digestion. Mm-hmm. If they can't calm the nervous system down for digestion, they get stressed and then they get sick. Mm-hmm. So nature has designed them to be able to ask a question, what is happening? But also to come back to a calm place very quickly. So when we learn the gestures, postures, and signals, it doesn't take long for horses to start to say, aha, this is good.
So Horsespeak, in your opinion, is all about imitation, about to imitate the horses speak. But how do you keep to be authentic? Because you just said that the horses are not stupid. They know that you are human and not a horse.
Oh, this is a great question. Well, one of the things we know about it's often told, especially from natural horsemanship ideas, is that we are predators, horses are prey. But the reason why we get along so well is because we're also both social. Mm-hmm. And we are a social creature, they are a social creature. And interestingly, the way they manage their social structure is actually quite similar to how people get along in groups. We need to have harmony. We have to resolve differences. We need to have calm. You don't want your office to be crazy. So we work on, how do I talk to this person to not get them upset, right? And so we like to have conversation over dinner. So do they. Mm-hmm. They love to have conversation. One thing that I'll tell people sometimes is just go share hay with your horse. Mm-hmm. And you have your sandwich and they have their hay. Or even better, look into the hay and give them some of the hay. Pick out little morsels, pieces, and say, do you like this one? And you'll discover that there's pieces of hay they love and pieces they don't love. And then they'll roll some hay to you. They'll take some hay and they'll put it in your hand, or they'll toss it to you on the floor. It's very sweet, but they love to communicate while they're eating, just like we do. So there's so many social skills that we share in common to have a connected and happy and calm experience with each other. Mm-hmm. So that's really where we come off authentic, because we're actually being more authentic instead of saying, you do what I say, which does work for dogs. Mm-hmm. Like if I train a dog and I say, sit, stay, come, and it's that type of like a Belgian Malinois or something. And they say, yes, 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 yes. And they want to. Some dogs really enjoy that sharp, fast, yes, because I'm a dog and I like it. And horses are not this way. They prefer really to have a lot of space to think. And when you see a herd of horses, most of the time they're standing still. And this is actually a huge accomplishment, because for all the horses to be standing still or relaxing, eating, it means that they have solved the problem of, is there danger today? And for a prey animal, this is an everyday problem you have to solve. So when you approach a herd of horses and they're calm, they're eating, they're resting, this is great. It means it's a functional herd. So we want to come into that herd and not disrupt it. We want to say, yes, I also will provide this for you. And then they have energy to share with us instead of us triggering them into anxiety.
But what about confusing for the horses, because they are used to mirror the human? But if now you start to mirror the horse, isn't it confused then?
No, it's not confusing at all, because it's communication.
Okay.
And when we're teaching people the language system of the horse via what we Horsespeak, we're giving people like the horse's worldview from their perspective. So therefore, we're giving like a conceptual education to then when you show up to the horses, you have in your mind, okay, I'm entering into what we call the chessboard, which is any environment in which the horse is on. I can see, okay, this horse is closer to the fence. What I've learned is that the buffer zone area closest to the fence or any kind of edge is usually where a protector will hang out. So then I know there's my protector horse. And then my more of the middle of the horses, I know that their roles in the herd may not be more on the like higher end, like protector, mentor, teacher, those kinds of roles. It would be more of a peacemaker or peanut butter and jelly, skeptics. So then because of the concepts that we understand, that does create this authentic nature to the messages that we are, performing with that. I don't want to say the word performing, that we're offering. And so we're seeing, oh, you put your head up. Okay, let me put my head up, mirror you to see what are you looking at? Oh, okay, I'm looking over there. I can breathe out because I don't see anything. I trust that it seems like there's nothing there. I can do an all's clear message, which would be a sigh out. And then I can use my hand by my thigh to say tail swish. There's nothing to be worried about there. And if the horse's head still stays up, we could perceive, there must really be something that I can't see over there.
So we take it a little bit more seriously. Perhaps we investigate a little deeper, and always we find something. One time it was a pen. Someone dropped a pen in the paddock, and the horse was saying, no, we can't leave. This last person dropped something. I don't know what it is. We went and fetched the pen. All the horses relaxed and let air out. We didn't know what that was.
Oh, that's nice.
Very authentic, because human beings use body language. In fact, more of our communication is through body language than through verbal.
So body language, you have a kind of alphabet then for the horses. And what about the breath messages? This is also very interesting. What is the significance of breath message?
Oh, man. You have great questions. So let's come back to horses being a prey animal. So when we've been studying wild herds of horses, they can sneak up on you. You can have suddenly 50 horses behind you in the forest and you didn't hear them come. They can be so silent. And so using just the breath as part of their communication is very logical for them, because they can make certain kinds of breath that has meaning into the herd, and everyone can hear everyone breathing. And they can just offer a little huff like that, or like this, or like just a little breaths that have a quality that represent a thought, a feeling, a choice, an action. And then it's followed with the other body language signals that they're giving. So a breath might get a horse's attention. Hey, look at me. And then the horse looks, and then they go through the series of body language motions, like a sign language. So you want to think of Horsespeak as very much like a sign language for that we have for hearing impaired people. And they add a little extra value to it with the breath messages. So I don't have all the breath messages down. There's probably hundreds, but we have probably 5 that we work with consistently for people, that people can figure out relatively. And some horses will look at the people funny and go, you're silly. You're very silly, but I think I understand you, and good try. So many horses get 2 expressions when people start doing their first Horsespeak. One, we call it the cartoon eyeballs. It's like the eyeballs get really big. and they look at the person and say, where did you learn that? And they're impressed.
Yeah.
And the other expression is they get this slightly annoyed look and they lick and chew and do a light tail swish, which is like, I'm thinking about it. And then they correct you and offer the body language that you were trying to do back to you. And those are what we call the teacher horses. So people that have a teacher horse spend a lot of time laughing because the horse hears them, responds to them, but then says, but your accent is terrible.
Yeah. But I also, every morning I tried when I give the hay, I always make, and suddenly all the horses start. This really functions perfectly. And then there's also one thing more. You talk about safety objects. Is this a kind where you can learn the communication between horses and human beings, so that the horse can remember if you knew such safety objects, or what is it all about?
Yeah, so horses use objects in their environment to represent different benchmarks, different qualities or concepts. And so I noticed that they tend to use an object towards the center of whether the space is, to rest near. And so this then is a safety object. And I just noticed that, wow, they're all doing it. It's consistent. I wonder if we can add to that. I wonder if we can do that. And so we started to do experiments with having like an indoor arena with nothing, and an indoor arena with maybe one barrel in the center. And if we go around the outside with the horse, we do the protection messages first, and then we come to the center. Does the horse cock a hip, relax, sniff the barrel? What do they do? And it turns out, yes, most of the time when you do this behavior, you walk around the outside, you're touching the wall in a few places, and you're saying, this wall is good. It's as though you were looking like, are any nails sticking out? Is there a loose board? As though you were inspecting. And this kind of inspection quality is what makes them feel, yes, you really are taking the concern seriously. Mm-hmm. And when you do this inspector quality, then they say, oh, great, you're the protector. Then you go to the barrel or the mounting block in the middle, and then you say, here we've arrived at the safe place. And we so consistently see horses then say, yeah, that's good. That's what I want. Now you get on the horse and you're riding, and they maybe have a little spook, and they say, can we please go there to the center? And they go to the center, and then they recalibrate, they reboot, they get calm again. They go, oh, you brought me back to the safety object so I could let that go and process and come back to you. Mm-hmm. It's been such a consistent and wonderful thing. But we've also then done experiments with horses we don't know. We're at a clinic, and we set up it's now a whole chessboard set up to have different areas that represent different things to horses. And we have the barrel in the center, and we have like 4 horses come in, and they're just loose. So nobody says anything to them. They just do what horses do. And every single time there will be one horse that goes to the outside and does protector. There'll be some that move to the middle, and they do what's called the flow zone, and they ask questions. What is this? What is that? And finally, there'll be one that arrives in the center and says, it's okay. I'm the mentor. Everything is safe. Okay. So we see them do this again and again. And we actually have YouTube.
Yeah, on SharonWilsie YouTube channel. We have 2 videos that we were at the Mustang Makeover in Aachen, Germany last year. And we met 4 mares, 3 of which knew each other for quite some time, and one mare who'd only been with the herd for 5 weeks. And so we navigated them in quite a big arena, with the portion of the arena with the objects set up, and how they related to the objects with just meeting us and these objects for the first time. It was, in this case, it was textbook.
And we had no whips.
No whips.
No ropes.
And Sharon actually got a hurt knee.
Yes.
And so she's hobbling around. And
I have a brace on my knee. and the mares so quickly responded to them when they realized the arena was set up for them, because horses see their spaces in a very precise way. That's why we call it a chessboard. They're not playing chess, but it's a way for us to relate that there are certain areas in their environment that they are going to say, this is good, this is bad, this is restful, this is where we ask questions, this is where we, practice this is where we practice that. And because we've studied horses for 20 years, we've figured out what that pattern looks like. And so when you provide it for horses and they look at it and you see the cartoon eyes come on and they say, have you given us a pattern? Yes, we have. And they look at you and say, well, aren't you clever? And now they're curious about you because you are not interfering with how they move through the world. You're enhancing how they move through the world and you're setting it up for safety. And so very quickly, they want to do what prey animals do best, which is let go of being stressed and come into a safe relationship with people. So we have that at Mustang Makeover. We also have a video from Wagenhof. There's 4 horses that come in. And so that's called Cracking the Horsespeak Code. And that's fun for people to see.
So this helps you to, for one way, to get more to know about the herd dynamic. And on the other hand, it helps you to build up trust with the whole herd.
Yes.
Okay. One thing I really also find very interesting is the greetings rituals, for greeting, going, grooming, and go away, I think. Yeah. What is this about?
So this, again, very good question. Again, it's noticing that horses have a cycle of communication. So there's 4 stages in their cycle of communication. There's a greeting stage where they're greeting maybe for the first time, or maybe just, hey, I'm back. I went there, now I'm here, I'm back. And they may greet actual touching noses, or they may just look at each other while eating, and just that acknowledgement. They have the next phase then of a topic. And so we call that going somewhere. They may actually move off together, or they may simply have a topic like, what is this? What is that? What did you do? Can I come close? No, don't come so close. I don't want you too close. Okay, you can go there. No, let's go. They have a topic. So they go somewhere into their conversation, and it may be moving. It might be standing still, but they're discussing something. They have the next phase, which is, we call it the gone phase, and it's a pause. It's just time out. Let's think. What just happened? Let's process information. When horses are processing information, they need to stop for at least 1 full minute. So 60 seconds, 1 full minute, because the information needs to pass from their brain through the central nervous system, all the way through the body and into all of the proprioceptive movement in the body. So you'll see the body actually shiver a little bit here, there, as they're processing information. And finally, there'll be a tail movement. The tail will go, I know what it is. Okay, I've changed. Okay, now I'm ready. And then they'll usually bob their head a little and be ready for something else. The last stage of their communication system is the grooming stage. And this is where the topics have been discussed. It's all good. Let's either groom each other, so we'll actually scratch, chew on each other, or let's rest, let's sleep. Who wants to lie down? We'll stand up and watch over you. So this also is a social grooming. It's a social connection. But there's no more topics to discuss. We're just going to practice sharing space together, resting, actually grooming, scratching each other. But it's safe enough to go into some self-care. Because if you're a prey animal and somebody smells a wolf, this is not a good time to scratch your belly.
That's right. So these 4 Gs you also celebrate if you go into the room of a horse always?
Well, it's really a way for people to understand that the horse is in one of those.
Okay.
They're always in one of them, but it's a cycle. So when you get clever about noticing the cycle, you greet your horse. They're going to want to have a topic like, how shall we, shall I move left? Do you move right? Are you coming in? Am I going out? Are we touching? Are we not touching? And then they're going to need a gone phase. They will need a moment to process. Say, okay, what just happened? How do we feel about this? Let me think about this. Okay. And then they will have a next phase of maybe a new topic, and they go somewhere with you. And some horses may need to have these several topics in a row before they're ready for grooming. So when some people say, oh, my horse doesn't like to be groomed, well, your horse has many topics. And so they're not ready to be groomed because they have other topics. And between topics, they might want to greet again. They may want to pause again and process. And so it's greeting and going somewhere and pausing and then. maybe 3 times. And then they go, okay, yeah, I feel better. Okay, would you like to scratch me now? Because now I'm ready. And so then you take them to the cross ties and groom them and get them tacked up, So once we understand, and every horse is different, some are like, I have no topics. I'm fine. Just scratch me.
Yeah.
And some are like, I have 20 topics I need to talk about.
So you have to be patient. And on the other side is you have to decipher the message of the horse. And this is really, I think this is the more difficult way. Or you first have to learn the Horsespeak to be able to decipher. How do you see that?
The best way to learn the language is because you don't have someone like Sharon over your shoulder saying, okay, so they just did a tail swish. They're not really liking what you're doing. Go do a check-in and go through this is how you have a conversation. And so the best thing to do is to film yourself, work with the horse. So then you can make check marks of like, oh, I did this particular thing. This is the response. So then you can practice your observation skills.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so we actually have we meet twice on Tuesdays. It's the Horsespeak Club where we actually look at our members' videos, whether it's a herd dynamic video or someone's doing riding or groundwork, in-hand work, what have you. And
or just having a conversation.
Or just hanging out with their horse, having a nice day. And we go over the videos and so go, in slow motion. So we're basically going frame by frame. 1 foot makes a difference in the conversation. So then, and I'll say for myself personally, we started this almost 5 years ago now. Once we started the club, it exponentially changed my skills and understanding of the language because it was repeatable over and over. It's just like when we go, the only time we practice Deutsch is when we're in Germany.
Yeah.
So we're not putting the time in. And so similarly, this is a language. It's with another species. Mm-hmm. And so then the observation practice is so critical to understanding the language. And the other part is like for grooming, for example, we have there's 3 parts to Horsespeak: empathy, mechanics, and theory. And so empathy basically is our bodies are having a conversation with each other. And sometimes you might have noticed that a person walks into a room and your stomach sinks. That's empathy because of this other nervous system. And in relationship to a horse, our nervous systems are talking. So then if you're like, I'm going to go get my horse, put her on the cross ties, and then my stomach gets clamped, it's like, oh, that is my body saying,
what the horse is feeling.
What the horse is feeling. But then also noticing, is that mine?
Am I tense?
Or
is it the horse? And so we have many skills that we teach that help you decipher from the very simple, the basic, like my bubble, your bubble. If I approach the horse's bubble and I notice a change in my body's sensations, now I can say, I found the bubble. And the next level, I go through the bubble and I feel another change. Maybe my body feels wonderful, or maybe it feels very tense. Inside the horse's bubble, my body changed its feeling. So now I go back out of the bubble and say, well, is that me or is that the horse? I might need to try 3 times in a row before I can figure out, is it me? Is it the horse? Or is it the both of us? But what we've done is break this down into such easy little chunks. So here's a little piece. You can learn this little piece. And every single part that you learn, the horse will thank you because you're becoming more sensitive to their reality. And that is why we have horses. I mean, we have horses. Yes, we might have a desire. I want to do dressage or I want to whatever. But we have them because our heart sings in the presence of a horse. And that's why we have them. We don't need to take the eggs to market with a horse. If I don't know.
Yeah, that's right.
Right? It's supposed to be fun.
It's supposed to be fun.
So this is really a great opportunity. You have this club and everybody can send you videos and you can teach them what's going wrong in the communication or what you can do better.
Absolutely. Because it's your journey with your personal horse and we can help you with anything that is going on. You're going to learn a little bit about yourself and you're also going to learn a lot about your horse and horses in general.
And so at the end, you might say, How can people reach you?
We have an online learning platform website, which is horsespeakacademy.com. And you can also visit, Sharon is SharonWilsie.com also. But we have online courses. We have in-person clinics, both at our home in New Hampshire, as well as we do spend a lot of time in Germany. We're actually going to be going to the UK this coming May. The email address is on our website, but you can info@horsespeakacademy.com.
Oh, okay. Bye.
Bye. Take care. Thank you.
You too. Bye. It was a pleasure.
Yes, it was.
Und wenn euch diese Auf Trab-Folge gefallen hat, ja, dann würden meine Welchis und ich uns über eure Unterstützung unseres Podcast-Projektes freuen, indem ihr Auf Trab auf YouTube, Spotify oder der Podcast-Plattform eurer Wahl liked und am besten den Podcast auch gleich abonniert. So könnt ihr auch keine Folge mehr verpassen. Vor allem aber bleibt auf Trab bis zum nächsten Samstag.